Hello everyone. Let's look at iced GUI and we're going to add database. This is going to be a work in progress. So we'll look at how the iced GUI works with version 0.13 and then I'll show you what I'm starting to do with the database. So this is not finished, but it's working to some extent. So we're using the latest ice which came out 11 days ago and cargo add iced. And also we're going to be using it with SurrealKV, which I did the previous video on, which I'll leave a link to. So what did I actually do? I built a small GUI with these buttons, which are centered, and I think I used fill as well. I used a toggle, and the toggle also alters what gets sent to the data saved in the database. You can see here I've added 4 lots of text each time I've clicked save and added something. So it's capturing what I type in, which was foobar each time. It's captured the number, so 02999, and then it's true, 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 false, because I've unticked toggle on the last go. So this is the structure. I've just separated the database bits from the main. I've got impl. I've got contract, which is like my main struct, and I've got contracts, which has got part of its impl in main and part in database. It works. I'm not sure if it's the best way to do it, and it's not something I've done before, but it's how it's split up and kind of separated the database side of things from the rest, from the view. So if you like these videos, subscribe and all that nonsense. So let's look at the code. So this is the iced 0.13.1 cross-platform GUI library inspired by Elm. Those are the examples. There's a really good site somewhere, which I think I showed in an earlier video, where you can see everything that's ever been built. Right, this is the code which I just had to refresh myself. So I just refreshed my memory on how the thing actually works, which is the view and the update. You can distill it down to that really. And now, rather than sandbox an application, which you might have used in the past, here you use iced run, and then you pass it in. That's just the title. Update and view, those are the two things it needs, because it's continuously creating the view and checking for updates. So take the result of a view logic and layout its widgets, process it. So, that's the examples. Let's just quickly show you those, because they are these are the right. So I actually based some of my code on to-dos. I don't know what that's writing to. Is it SQLite? I'm not sure. But Game of Life, dark theme, which I've used. Anyway, let's look at the code. Right. Sorry for digressing. Right, I called it to-dos. Right, this is where I've included database, which we'll look at in a sec. That's doing the actual stuff that it writes to SurrealKV. So look at the previous video to see how that works. It's really new, so I may or I may not persevere with this. I might take the slightly easier option and go for SQLite. Right, so I'm using the counter from database. Then this is fairly standard that you'll see in the ICE documentation. I've used a checkbox, I've just talked about. I used center, I used fill, and I used theme, theme being the dark theme. These are self-explanatory, button, column. The column you have to import twice. So I think once is the trait and once is the, I don't know what's that, once is the widget. The enum I'll come back to in a sec. So we've got an enum, then we've got, these are basically just the options of the things that it does. So you could think of these as like the verbs almost. Don't know what happened there. Let's go full screen. Okay, so we've got update, which is where you pick you match one of the enums that gets that. These messages are like events. So message is the iced terminology for an event. So depending on what message gets passed from the front end, then something will happen when you get a match with a pattern matching on this. So increment, decrement, input changed, reset. So the standard increment, decrement would be these two lines, or these two options. Here you've got input changed, reset, added that, and here's the main bit, which hopefully most of you will find interesting, which is save to database. So again, you add an option, you add an extra item to the enum, input value, and you need to clone. So you take the input value, you clone it, and also you do the same with the value. In fact, this is slightly, so you can guess what this is. So the string is what you type in, the input value is the number, so that's what you get as a result of clicking the increment, decrement. And the is checked, so that's just Boolean, so that's true or false. And that's what I just showed with the little checkbox. No, because it's right into the database and we don't know how long it's going to take, we use Tokio spawn, which does affect the way we call iced right at the end, which I'll get to. But Tokio spawn, then we use async move, and then this code is because you're using async, then you need to remember to use await. Other than that, the code is kind of what you would normally do. So let counter. Let me just turn off the types as well. Okay. So let counter equal counter. So that's the counter. That's an instance of counter where you're passing in the value, which is the number which you've incremented, decremented, the input value, which it should actually be. I need to rename that really. That should be text or use a string, and then is checked. So if there's an error, then print failed to save to database because we're doing if let. Otherwise, counter save to database and then do await because we're using Tokio as async. Right, down here we got the view. So the view, I've added all this bit was me adding extra stuff really. So without what I've done there, you wouldn't have checkbox, you wouldn't have text input, and you would just have if you look at the basic increment decrement example, it's just those 3 lines, but you can probably guess what the others do. So I've added this line, which makes, because it's within view, this is actually adding stuff to the GUI that you'll see. So you've got the reset button, the save button, the text input and the checkbox. So they're not buttons and they're not text. They're things which they're variables which I've kind of created here. So so it's still text input. You could, rather than having, you see it's white there, that's because it's kind of something I've made, but you could just, you see that, and that's pale blue. So text input could just appear down there. When you could just I've just created a variable just to keep it a bit neater, and also so that I kind of, it helps me because I know what I've created there. I know I've built that and I've built that. Toggle. So again, toggle needs an enum because everything needs an enum because it's all goes back up to the message, and the message has to be one of the items in the message. It all works with the enum and then the update and the view. So coming down here, it just returns content, and content is what gets built here. So it's a column. You can have multiple columns. Obviously, a column is just a vertical area on the screen. So I'm just saying fill it, put some spacing, padding, align it to the center. Theme, I'm just passing in the theme. The underscore there, I'm not quite sure why that works, but it does. That's on a postcard. Here, we've got iced result is the result that gets returned. You've got the runtime, so let the runtime equal Tokio runtime new. So we're creating a new runtime, and then here we're saying block on and then we're passing in the async. So without that line, you would just do iced application, pass in the theme, and then I'm not sure if run is available on let's go. Sorry, I'm trying to get in a muddle. Let's look at the iced documentation, because you might not, if you don't want to be starting straight off with there you go, iced run. So the run just goes there in title up. So you always need an update and you always need a view. Okay. So I've done it a little bit differently here, but it does work. So if we just run it, you go. So it's, I think this might, I don't know, was that what did I set this? My screen's 1080, so that is the 500. What did I set the width as? I need to experiment with the width. I don't know why it's coming out that width, but if I resize it, yeah, let's see it, but that stays centered, so that's good. Let's make it smaller so we can see what's going on in the background. My Pop OS is resizing the screen. Right, okay. I can just move that up here, and there we go. So test_1. We'll assign it 10. No, it won't. We'll reset it. Good. For save. There you see. And that's actually gone into the database, record added. And I've used set and get. So if we go to look at the database, so on my repo, I actually did the first one was all in one file, and it started getting a little bit cluttered, I would say so. Within the database, this is Surreal chrono, so getting the time, JSON formatting, path. Didn't actually need the path really, but not in this instance because I'm not specifying some obscure path. So this is the save to database function. So all of this appeared in the previous video, the SurrealKV. So it's specific to Surreal. So if you wanted to do SQLite, you'd just alter, you'd alter some of these. You wouldn't have options. You'd still have a database with some kind of, you wouldn't have store there. You'd probably have whatever specific syntax for the actual database you're using. And down here, this is where I'm setting the key, and the key is equal to the value and the timestamps to make it unique. So save the data to database. So that's what we're doing, set. So this key value store uses set and get, set and get. So again, you could use a normal database. I'm just trying to do this with SurrealKV, just so that it's all in one binary. So yeah, that's quite unusual for if you're not used to SurrealKV. But the key value stuff is kind of fairly standard. So create a unique key based on the current timestamp. In fact, I probably could just use something like UUID maybe. convert the counter instance to a JSON string. So we're doing some cool conversions. We're converting JSON to string, and then we're converting the string to bytes. In there, when we get the record we just added, we're actually doing the opposite. So we're taking a string from the bytes, and then we're printing the retrieved value. So I've put all the comments, hopefully it makes sense. You will, if you're new to SurrealKV, which I'm sure pretty much every who isn't. And in fact, you don't have to use SurrealKV here. It's just something I'm experimenting with. If we do tree, when you run it, you'll see you get some new things appear. So those you'd expect. You get clog and you get manifest. So don't worry, don't think you've suddenly got a virus or something. So those stored, it's because we're persisting the data. And excuse me. So then we got debug and release. The binary compiles down to 18 meg. And that's without LTO or the option Z. So that's just using cargo build dash release. In fact, if I run this in here, you'll see 2 new directories appear. Oh, it's not picked up the theme. That's interesting. Oh, this was an older version. Okay. You can do minus numbers as well. You might prefer it in white. It's up to you. It's not. So record added. I still need to do see clogs appeared and manifest has appeared. And so it's captured what I typed. It's captured. That was an earlier version because it's before I added the checkbox, wasn't it? It's not captured the checkbox, so that's an earlier version. So I'll put the code on GitHub, and it's a bit scary to start with, and once you kind of grasp it, you just use update and view, and it references an enum. You just have to update 3 things really each time you want to add something. So if you add a button, you need to add the option and to the enum. You need to add the kind of the view, how it appears. So you need to say whether there's a button or a checkbox, and then you add the actual code in update. And you probably want to be using clone. And the async thing, that's just because I use SurrealKV. You don't have to use async, but if you're working with a database, you probably do want to use async. So hopefully you got some value from this video, because really you won't see on just any sort of standard documentation. You won't see the ways how to run it with the async and with Tokio. Just remember, that's just the Tokio, that's just the async inside that particular function. So if we go to main, you see how this function is just standard pub function. But if we go to go and look at the database, then this was async. Oh yeah, and the other thing was I've used impl counter. You can use impl counter within the database file, and we've got impl counter within our main file. We're getting a muddle here. Let me just go back to main. So counter within main function. or the main.rs, and then we've got it in database as well. So counter appears in both files. So you can split your import across two files. I don't know if that's a good idea. I'd be interested to what anybody else says. Is it a good idea to have the same impl name or the same impl spread across two files? I know it's something that you wouldn't probably normally need to do, but for iced, you want your counter with, I mean, I've just called it counter because I was copying the to-dos, but that could be called, um, my app. That could be called app or whatever. But so what I'm getting to is this appears in the main file, and it also is appearing in the database file, just to recap. So I don't know if that's a good idea. If it is or not, just drop me a comment. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. I will try and do some more stuff on this. I might look at using UUIDs for the key rather than some made up timestamp hybrid combo thing. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, and yeah, let me know if you're building anything with Iced. It is quite nice when you sort of when you first run it and then magically something appears on your screen, because often with Rust projects you don't get to see an awful lot on the screen. So yeah, it's nice. Thanks for watching.